So, for a long time now, we have been given a linear equation. Remember, the graph of a linear equation is a line. We have identified the slope, we've identified the y-intercept, we've graphed the line. Now we're going to start the process of writing the equation of the line. So they're going to give us some information, sometimes in Word, sometimes in a graph, sometimes in a table, and we're going to come up with the equation. So let's recall slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form says y equals mx plus b. Okay? Do you remember what m stands for? M is the slope of the line, and that is always the coefficient of x. That is always the number in front of x. And then b, what does b stand for? B is the y-intercept, and I'm having a hard time writing legibly. Y-intercept, and that is always the constant. That's the number by itself, okay, with no variable. So we're going to find these two pieces of information. To write the equation of the line, as far as we're going to know right now, we need to know the slope, we need to know the y-intercept. So the first thing they're going to do is they're going to give us some information in words. Write an equation of a line in slope-intercept form with a slope of -3 and a y-intercept of -4. Well, guess what? They gave me the slope of -3, and they gave me the y-intercept. Those are the two pieces of information we need. So we're going to say y equals, the slope is the coefficient of x, so we're going to say -3x, and the constant is the y-intercept. That's a -4, so we're going to put -4, okay? So at any time, after I've done one example, you're going to see a couple more. If you want to try them on your own, pause the video, turn the video back on, make sure you did it correctly, or you can just work along with me. The second one here says to write an equation of a line in slope-intercept form with a slope of 2 and a y-intercept of -8. Those are the two pieces of information I need. So I say y equals, the slope is the coefficient of x, so I say 2x, the y-intercept is the constant, so I put it by itself, -8. So the equation of this line is y equals 2x minus 8. The last one, write an equation of a line in slope-intercept form with a slope of 3/4 and a y-intercept of -3. I say y equals, the slope is the coefficient of x, so I say 3/4 x. The y-intercept is -3. I say -3. All right, next, from a graph. They give us a graph, and the two things we need to write the equation of the line are the slope and the y-intercept. We have done both of these things looking at a graph. How do we find slope from a graph? Well, remember, we draw our slope triangle, right? And we're counting the rise and the run. Remember to always look, this line has positive slope, so my slope is going to be positive. I count my rise. Remember, you count spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My run, I count spaces, 1, 2, 3. So my slope is a positive 5/3. My y-intercept, where does this line cross the y-axis? So we look at the y-axis, we look at the line, and the y-intercept is right there, right where it crosses the y-axis. That's at what? That's a -2. So my slope is 5/3, my y-intercept is -2, so I say y equals 5/3 x because the slope is the coefficient of x, -2 because the y-intercept is the constant. Okay, this next one you can try on your own, or you can work along with me. They did not give me points here, so I've got to come up with my own points. I'm going to use my y-intercept as one of my points. I can go ahead and write that down. It crosses the y-axis at 1. And then it looks like, remember, we want points that go through the crosshairs, points that go through corners of squares, right? So it looks like another point I can use is this one. This line has negative slope, Notice how it's going down from left to right. I'm going to draw my triangle, which is hard to do with a stylus. It's negative. My rise is 2. My run is 3. So the slope of this line is negative 2/3. So my equation is y equals negative 2/3 x plus, because my y-intercept was positive here, 1. All right, lastly, how would I do this from a table? Well, slope from a table, we remember we'd found the change in y over the change in x. So here's my y's. How do I get from 5 to 7? I add 2. How do I get from 0 to 3? I add 3. So my change in y over my change in x is 2/3. Now, how would we find the y-intercept from a table? These are coordinates, right? This is a point, 0, 5, 3, 7, 6, 9, 9, 11. Which one of those is the y-intercept? Well, for coordinates, when you're looking at a coordinate for the y-intercept, it's on the y-axis, right? It's a point here on the y-axis. And the x-coordinate is 0 because you don't go anywhere left or right. So for the y-intercept, you look for the x-coordinate to be 0. That is the clue that it's the y-intercept. So I look right here, my x-coordinate is 0 there, so 0, 5, that's on the y-axis. My y-intercept is 5. So I have my slope, I have my y-intercept. I say y equals 2/3 x plus 5. The slope is the coefficient of x, the y-intercept is the constant. All right, now I've got one of these tables that are written sideways. Change in y over change in x. So how do I get from negative 5 to negative 2? What do? Look at your number line. You add 3. So my change in y is 3. How do I get from negative 2 to negative 1? I add 1. So my slope is negative 3 over 1, or I could just say 3. How do I find the y-intercept of this table? You look for the x-coordinate to be 0. That's right there. So my y-intercept is 1. So the equation of my line would be y equals 3x, because the slope is the coefficient of x, plus 1 because the y-intercept's the constant. All right, if you have any questions on any of the examples, ask me. You're ready for some practice.